no one's sane. Crumbling towers, streets in flames, forgotten heroes, who knows their names? Broken futures, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, this is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's June 19th, 2025. Happy Juneteenth. You racists out there. It's Juneteenth, damn it. You better be celebrating. What do we got today? The lead up to U.S. bombing Iran. Now the messaging from the propaganda influencers, politicians, Mockingbird media. Oh, I trust Trump. Just trust Trump. Very similar to Q. Trust the plan. Trust Trump. Well, he already failed, i.e. Operation Warp Speed. He failed. He can't be trusted. He's a liar, criminal, con man. But that's the talking point out there. I don't trust Trump, sorry to tell you. I don't trust anybody in the government. We've got a lot of reporting about Aardvark-Iran war. A lot is going on there. Of course, it is Juneteenth. We'll go over that. What else did we got today? We got a sad, just broke. I saw before we came on air the wrongful death case there in the Shahara versus Ascension Health. The jury ruled against them. So the verdicts were all no. The Ascension Health did no wrongdoing, according to a jury. So that's not good. We'll check in on what's going on in Russia, Ukraine. There's still a war going on there. Check in there. What's going on with China. And just the utter and ridiculous hypocrisy coming out of Aardvark land. They're outraged that a hospital was struck. Some reports say that it was just the shock waves and it was legitimate military targets. The other hospital was in between. We'll go over all that. We got responses from Iran. We're pretty heavy on Iran Aardvark news today. That is the big news of the day. I guess the Senate passed this cryptocurrency bill. It has to still go to the House of Representatives. So I guess we'll report on it if it goes to that, if it passes the House. I don't know. You know what I mean? All right. We got a little public health news, as usual. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Where have we heard that before? Oh, and just trust Trump. Where have we heard that before? Feels like we're in a bad, we're watching bad reruns, man. Bad reruns. We've already seen this movie. But the idiots out there in America seem to love it. Like you didn't learn anything after the last 5 years. Apparently not. The jury in the Ascension health case didn't learn anything, apparently. All right. This day in history. On this day in history, going to the year of June 19th, going to the year 1829, the Metropolitan Police Act was passed by Robert Peel in UK there. And so they established uniformed police force in London, the city's first modern police force. Order followers, i.e., quote, bobbies, as they're called, wearing top hats. It is quite an interesting first uniform that they had here. I just always think of Clockwork Orange when I think about London police, but here's their uniforms. Bobbies take to the streets of London. I do like those tall hats. In 1862, slavery is outlawed in U.S. territories on this day. And in 1865, why we're all here today, we're celebrating Juneteenth. Juneteenth. In 1865, Union General Gordon Granger declares slaves free in Texas. Now the end of slavery is celebrated across the U.S. as Juneteenth. Literally everyone I talked, no one even knew until I had to tell them about it and call everybody racist for not even knowing or celebrating Juneteenth. More about Juneteenth. Juneteenth, celebrated today, June 19th, marks the day in 1865 when enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas were informed of their freedom over 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. On June 19th, 1865, Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and issued General Order Number 3 announcing that all slaves were free in accordance with President Abraham Lincoln's proclamation. This event symbolized the effective end of slavery in the United States, though freedom came unevenly across regions. Yeah, now we're all slaves, so much better that way for equality, of course. The name Juneteenth blends June and 19th. Celebrations began in Texas as early as 1866 with community gatherings, prayer services, and feasts. Over time, it spread across the U.S., especially as African Americans migrated. Traditions include barbecues, rodeos, music, storytelling, and reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. Red foods and drinks like hibiscus tea and strawberry soda are common, symbolizing resilience and joy. Well, Bobby Kennedy Jr. is a big old racist. He just outlawed all that food dye. How are they gonna get their toxic food dye in their red colored drinks? Juneteenth became a federal holiday in 2021 following decades of advocacy, though it's been a state holiday in Texas since 1980 and recognized elsewhere earlier. It's a day to honor African American history, reflect on freedom's complexities, and celebrate cultural contributions. Some critique its federal recognition as symbolic without addressing systemic issues, while others see it as a step toward acknowledging historical truths. Yeah, they needed faster communications in the 1860s, that's for sure. It took them 2 years to figure out what the heck actually was going on in this country. So that's a little bit about Juneteenth, and I hope you apologize for being white today, even though no one knows or even cares about Juneteenth. It doesn't matter. You're bad for being white, and don't forget it. All right. Moving forward here to, did I skip one? I skipped one. There was another one I wanted to bring up here, and I skipped over it. I'm going to have to go back to it here. About the royal family, the British royal family, on this day of June 19th in the year 1917, the British royal family, which has had strong German ties, they're actually German, right? Since George I renounced its German names and titles and adopts the name of Windsor. It's all fake, like everything else. The British royal family is not even British. In 1934, the Federal Communications Administration Agency was created on this day. In 1991, for you cocaine addicts out there, a very sad day. Pablo Escobar, cocaine kingpin out of Colombia, was jailed upon his surrender to police. In 2012, a man was beheaded for witchcraft and sorcery in Saudi Arabia. That's pretty damn extreme. In the year 2012. And then in 2019, in America here, Nexium cult leader Kenneth Rainier was found guilty in a New York court of racketeering, sex trafficking, and fraud. And then tomorrow, of course, we're going to be celebrating summer solstice on the 20th this year. It's an oddball year. And so that's when we're going to be celebrating the summer solstice. All right. We have a few on this days of our civil liberties history. Ethel and Julius Rosenberg executed. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg in 1953 on this day were executed for allegedly stealing the secret to the atomic bomb and giving the information to the Soviet Union. They are the only Americans ever executed for espionage. Their case remains controversial today, involving many civil liberties issues, including collusion between the prosecutors and the judge. Historians generally agree that Julius Rosenberg was a member of a Soviet spy ring and that he did give some information to his handlers. Many, however, argue that the stolen information was not the secret to the atomic bomb and had little real value. There is general agreement that Ethel Rosenberg did not participate in spying, however. If, in fact, it is believed that she was given the death penalty in the belief that the sentence would cause her to confess and provide evidence against her husband. The Rosenberg's two sons were adopted. Yeah, so there you go. Got those damn commies, right? Okay, in 1961 on this day, exclusionary rule for the police, Mapp versus Ohio. Supreme Court on this day in Mapp versus Ohio ruled that the exclusionary rule applied to state and local police departments. The exclusionary rule holds that evidence gained by police through an unconstitutional search in violation of the Fourth Amendment cannot be used in court against the defendant. And then 1972, Supreme Court, Fourth Amendment applies to domestic surveillance. Somebody tell the NSA. In an extremely important decision on this day, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled in the United States versus U.S. District Court that the Fourth Amendment requirement regarding searches applies to all surveillance cases in the U.S. The decision is often referred to as the, quote, Keith case, after the U.S. District Court Judge Damon Keith. The Justice Department had prosecuted two members of the radical White Panther Party for conspiracy to destroy government property through bombs when the defense filed a pre-trial motion for the prosecution to disclose the information it had from electronic surveillance, the Justice Department argued because the conspiracy involved an attempt to overthrow the government, the surveillance fell under the national security exception to Title III of the 1968 Omnibus Crime Control Act, which authorized domestic wiretapping on June 19, 1968. Judge Keith rejected that argument and ordered the government to disclose the information. The Justice Department appealed the judge's ruling, hence the case titled United States versus U.S. District Court. The Supreme Court unanimously upheld Judge Keith's decision. The decision had an enormous impact on FBI wiretapping practices, threatening more systemic disclosures. And now they literally just laugh in your face about it all, don't they? All right, let's get to our segue here. I had a couple different segues. Let's play this one. Just trust in President Trump. Just trust the plan, man. He's never let us down before, except for he did, right? Yeah, the medical intervention period. And so it's like I said, it's a rerun of propaganda and BS. If you believe it, you're beyond freaking stupid at this point.
Trust in President Trump. President Trump has incredible instincts, and President Trump kept America and the world safe in his first term as president in implementing a peace through strength foreign policy agenda. And with respect to Iran, nobody should be surprised by the president's position that Iran absolutely cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been unequivocally clear about this for decades, not just as president, not just as a presidential candidate, but also as a private citizen. In fact, I have some quotes for you. In 2011, President Trump said, "America's primary goal with Iran must be to destroy its nuclear ambitions. We cannot allow this radical regime to acquire a nuclear weapon that they will either use or hand off to terrorists." In 2015, the president said, "The problem is that Iran poses an existential threat to Israel, our Middle Eastern allies, and the United States." And of course, the president has repeated that in his first term as president and his second term as president as well. That's why he was adamantly opposed to the disastrous Iranian nuclear agreement that was implemented by President Obama. And it's why he has given great latitude and given a lot of effort to achieving a diplomatic solution. But he's been very clear. Iran went for 60 days when he gave them that 60-day warning without coming to the table. On day 61, Israel took action against Iran. And as I just told you from the president directly, he will make a decision within 2 weeks.
They hit all the propaganda talking points. Trust. Iran can't have a nuke. 2 weeks. It's just total BS, man. Propaganda and lies. And what else would we expect from this crime syndicate known as the federal government here? It's just so disgusting, man. There was an article here. I was debating about whether to read it to you guys or not. I think I may hold off till tomorrow. But here it is. You guys can go read it. I read it. And it's Aardvark Land Conquers the World, Identifying the Constituent Factors Behind Its Dominance by Michael Hoffman. And it's on his Substack account there. And he goes over, it's actually not that long, but he breaks it all down, how they're not actually aardvarks. They're a bunch of these Ashkenazis. And that's coming from an aardvark scholar, this guy. Maybe we'll just skim through it. And so we go see they're not the Khazarians, they're the Ashkenazis, Yiddish Ashkenazis. And what else does he say here? Maybe I should just read the whole thing. Anyway, and he talks about how it's all, literally made up. Protestant fundamentalists such as U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee reject Jesus Christ criterion for Abrahamic authenticity. Roman Catholics under the modern popes are guilty of this as well. Indeed. It's a good article breaking it all down, giving you the historical context and reference there. Maybe we'll cover that tomorrow. I'll read it. But we have a lot to get to today. Here's a flashback of my favorite and your favorite First Lady, Hillary Clinton. And so too bad she didn't win in 2016. We would have been bombing Iran then, where she was. This is a flashback to 2008, where she says, I want the Iranians to know if I'm president, we will attack Iran. Let's hear from Hillary Clinton back in 2008, talking about attacking Iran.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. Whatever stage of development they might be in their nuclear weapons program in the next 10 years, during which they might foolishly consider launching an attack on Israel, we would be able to totally obliterate them. That's a terrible thing to say, but those people who run Iran need to understand that, because that perhaps will deter them from doing something that would be reckless, foolish, and tragic.
There's literally no difference. Coke, Pepsi, pour it in the same cup and drink up your Kool-Aid there. There's literally no difference. Here is the 2 weeks propaganda, again from Blonde Barbie at the White House. She shares an important message from President Trump on Iran. So watch this. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, remember? Just 2 weeks so you don't overwhelm the system.
Now, regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president.
Oh, just 2 weeks to flatten the curve. 2 weeks to flatten Iran. So I don't know, is this true? The Guardian says Trump caution on Iran strike linked to doubts over bunker buster bomb, officials say. I saw another report saying they don't know if this bunker buster can take out the nuclear facility completely, so we may have to bomb them with a nuke to take out their nuclear facility to make sure it's fully taken out. You can't make this stuff up. It's like, but we're the good guys when we do it, because 2 weeks and trust the plan, and Iran can't have a nuke, right? The likelihood of a successful U.S. strike on the Iranian nuclear facility buried deep underground at Fordow is a topic of deep contention, defense officials say. And this is like the 30,000-pound bomb, the GBU 57, 13.6 ton, 30,000-pound bomb, bunker buster, it's being called. That would be so America, right? That would be so America if we dropped a nuclear bomb on their nuclear site and it said, well, we had to do it because it's the only bomb that we knew would take out your whole facility. That would be so America, wouldn't it? It's beyond the pale. Seymour Hersh, famous journalist out there, he's saying that he's reporting possible U.S. strike on Iran will entail heavy bombing. But if Khamenei departs, then everything will be under control. Global response, especially that of Putin, is the most important question. He says this is what he's been telling. This is what he's been told from his sources, Seymour Hersh. So there's a lot of conjecture, fog of war type stuff going on here. And yes, I don't expect them to tell us their whole plan on the front page of the friggin' failing New York Times, but it makes you wonder what is really going on here. And can that bunker buster 30,000-pound bomb actually take out the nuclear facility there in Iran? And do we even have nukes? Are nukes even real? That question is out there as well. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's foreign minister Artichoke spoke by the phone several times since aardvark strikes began, according to a report out of Reuters. And so communications are still going on here between America and Iran as the war wages on, which is good news. Here's a funny clip of Trump debating himself about starting World War III and being a warmonger. Again, very conflicting reports, to say the least.
Right now, not in a very good position.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. For the American people to see what's going on.
That's pretty good stuff. History repeats itself. So here is Time Magazine, CIA Time Magazine. Life after Sodom, and they're painting over his mural there in Iraq. An inside look at Bush's high-risk plan to occupy Iraq and remake the Middle East. We're literally watching bad reruns at this point. For as much taxes as we pay, we deserve better psyops and way better propaganda than what these clowns are putting out. And then here's the most recent edition of Time Magazine, The New Middle East. Iran's threat, a regime on the brink. Aardvark's gamble, what's at stake for America. And you could see Khamenei's fading away there, very similar to this cover. And so we deserve better propaganda, man. Swear to God. Better psyops, better propaganda, because it's a bad rerun that we're watching here now. Let's hear from Press Lady Barbie here. Short clip.
As for correspondence between the United States and the Iranians, I can confirm that correspondence has continued. As you know, we were engaged with 6 rounds of negotiations with them in both indirect and...
Well, at least it's good they're still talking. I don't know what good it's worth, but... Okay, off of that for a second, and in other news, Trump keeps kicking the can down the road on the TikTok ban, because that's looking very shady. And I forget, even more than one of these big aardvark supporters here in America said that we have to ban TikTok because it's creating anti-aardvark sentiment by showing their genocide there in Gaza. And so we just can't have that. And so TikTok needs to be banned. And then on the other side of their mouth, they say, well, it spreads Chinese propaganda in America. But for all that, but they're trying to undermine it to undermine the value of it. So aardvarks or whoever can come in and buy it on the cheap. But Trump has issued an executive order extending the ban on TikTok, the forced sale of it, or outright ban, for another 90 days to September 17th of this year. Here it is. But what about all that Chinese propaganda that we're feeding the kids? Apparently Trump doesn't care. So allegedly, according to the White House, according to the government, they say that there have been zero illegal border crossings in the month of May this year. And that's down a 93% decrease in illegal border crossings from last year. I don't know how it's not 100%. If there's zero, but that funny new math or something, I don't know, Common Core math. Now that I look at this, it don't make a whole lot of sense. They say 93% decrease in illegal border crossings year over year here, May 24 to May 25. Zero illegal crossings in May. Well, then shouldn't that be 100%? I don't know. Huh? That don't seem right. Okay. On to, and of course I blame Iran for this, but one of Musk's rockets blew up there on the SpaceX rockets blew up, and quite an explosion it was. Ship number 36. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, probably. I mean, even the other day when they... Whoa!
Whoa! What? That's not good.
No!
Oh my God.
Ship 36 just blew up. Of course, I blame Iran for that, even though they had nothing to do with it. It doesn't matter. And look at all the CO2 emitted there and all the toxic chemicals, other toxic chemical greenhouse gases. Who cares? Buy a battery-powered car and have the lithium-ion battery explode and further pollute the environment and virtue signal that you're a good person until you decide to vandalize a Tesla. That's the clown world we're in here now. Continuing more clown world. That was an unintentional segue by me, but it ties right in here. Bill introduced by California lawmakers would prohibit law enforcement from covering their faces. They literally shamed you out of existence and wouldn't let you enter many facilities if you didn't wear a mask, like what, 2.5 years ago, however long ago it was. Now they want to pass a law against it. Let's watch this report out of Clown World ABC 7 LA.
The ICE raids taking place across Southern California and the rest of the country have involved agents wearing face coverings.
Well, some denouncing the masks as an intimidation tactic. Others say agents need them for protection. As Eyewitness News reporter Leticia Waters explains, now California state legislators are proposing a ban.
When it comes to law enforcement, a uniform, name tag, and badge number are meant to signal authority and accountability. But during recent immigration raids, agents dressed in plain clothes, wearing face coverings and without any visible ID have raised alarms.
Law enforcement officers are public servants, and people should be able to see their faces, see who they are, know who they are. Otherwise, there's no transparency and no accountability. Senator
Scott Wiener and Public Safety Committee Chair Jesse Arguin are behind legislation dubbed the No Secret Police Act. The bill would ban officers operating in California from covering their faces or concealing their identities.
What we have been seeing in the last few weeks are law enforcement, some local, some federal, who are wearing masks to completely hide their faces while they're carrying out deportation, other enforcement activities.
The bill would also require clear identification, either through uniforms, name tags, or badge numbers. It would also apply to contract officers from other jurisdictions. But there are carve-outs. SWAT teams, officers wearing wildfire protective gear, and medical masks are exempt.
We don't need law enforcement officers who are covering their faces, who are not identifying themselves, who are jumping out of unmarked vehicles.
But not everybody is on board.
Their legislation will not trump federal law and or policies.
Retired Sheriff's Deputy Bruce Thomas says the law could put officers at risk, especially in the digital age.
There are certain bad actor groups that go out there and will target law enforcement and even public officials to identify them on the internet, their families, their loved ones.
If passed, law enforcement officers who violate the law could face misdemeanor charges. Meanwhile, lawmakers said that they will work with law enforcement to refine the bill, balancing officer safety with public accountability. Leticia Juarez.
Yeah, obviously we don't want secret police running around just grabbing people, but coming from these quote lawmakers, Scott Wiener and another joker, they literally were saying arrest you if you don't wear a mask. And you saw a carve-outs, just wear your stupid paper mask and say, I heard a bird coughing in the park. You know what I mean? It's just, I agree with the intent, but the lawmakers putting forth such law are not genuine actors that care about our civil rights, as we saw during the medical intervention period. They're fake, fraud, phonies, politicizing our civil rights. And it's disgusting, honestly, because they're not genuine. Okay, here is... what do we got there? They say don't forget about East Palestine, not over there in West Asia, but actually in Ohio. Remember that train derailment? Well, old black eyeliner man, vice president, Palantir kid, J.D. Vance, who was a senator out of Ohio before he got selected to be vice president. He says the Trump administration is launching a program to study long-term health effects of the chemical spill in East Palestine and help residents access the care they need. East Palestine, we will not forget you. Let's watch this clip. But remember how crazy that was? There was a they had a, was it a Netflix or Amazon show that was literally a show about a train derailment and toxic chemical spill in East Palestine that came out like right before this happened. Remember all that crazy psyop nonsense? And then the train company literally lit the whole thing on fire to cover up all this evidence and caused all kinds of more toxic pollution. Freaking insanity. And of course, no one gets in trouble. Let's watch this clip. I'd like to believe these people are genuine. I just can't trust them anymore. I'm sorry.
Guys, Vice President J.D. Vance here, and I want to take you back to something that happened early on when I was a United States Senator. There was a terrible train crash, and then there was a controlled burn of toxic chemicals that went into the atmosphere in East Palestine, Ohio, a little town in the northeastern corner of the state of Ohio. What happened then is that people got very worried, and I've been to East Palestine a number of times, and they're very worried about what are the long-term impacts of these chemicals in the water, in the air. What effect does it have on their kids and grandkids after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of exposure? And the crazy thing is, number one, we didn't have a good answer to that question. Science had never actually tried to understand what the long-term exposure of these trace chemicals would do to people. And the second crazy thing is that as much as I tried as a United States Senator to work with the Biden administration, they refused to do anything to actually study the effects of these long-term exposures on the people of East Palestine. Well, Now we have a new president and a great new Secretary of Health and Human Services, and he's got an incredible announcement. We're finally going to study the effects on these chemicals and finally get to the bottom of what effect this terrible train crash and the ensuing consequences had on the people of East Palestine.
I want to start by thanking my friend, Vice President J.D. Vance, for his continued and persistent interest in this issue, which many Americans have already forgotten. On February 3rd, 2023, a Norfolk Southern freight derailed in East Palestine, Ohio. The wreck involved 38 cars carrying hazardous chemicals, which ignited and then spread in these prolonged fires. East Palestine community members immediately began experiencing a range of initial health symptoms, including headaches and respiratory and skin and eye irritations, prompting concerns about the broader long-term impacts on maternal and child health. At the urging of Vice President, the National Institute of Health, under my direction, has launched a 5-year, $10 million research initiative to address health outcomes stemming from this calamity. This is the first large-scale coordinated multi-year federal study focused specifically on the long-term health impacts of the East Palestine disaster. The program will support robust community-engaged epidemiological research to understand the impacts of exposures on short and long-term injuries. It will also support public health tracking and surveillance of the community's health conditions to help us make informed health care choices and take appropriate preventative measures. I want to thank Vice President Vance for not forgetting about the people of East Palestine, for making this an important issue, and for allowing us to launch this important initiative.
This is a big announcement, guys. I'm very, very excited about it.
I am absolutely delighted to make this announcement today, and I want to thank Vice President Vance and Secretary Kennedy for staying on this issue. The purpose and goal of the NIH, the mission, is to advance the health and well-being of the American people, and this is a concrete way that we're going to do that. The NIH is working to ensure that the people of East Palestine and the surrounding communities are listened to, cared for, and they get the answers they deserve. Today, the NIH has established a program to coordinate health-related research with public health department needs and clinical practice to respond to the health effects of the derailment. The train was carrying hazardous materials, including vinyl chloride, butyl acrylate, ethylene glycol, and benzene residue, and community members have experienced a range of health issues following the incident. The NIH's multidisciplinary research program will focus on public health tracking and surveillance of the community's health conditions to support healthcare decisions and preventative measures. Importantly, the program will be community-led. It'll emphasize extensive, well-coordinated communications among researchers, study participants, community stakeholders, and healthcare providers, and others to provide a comprehensive approach to address the affected community's health concerns. The NIH intends to allocate up to $10 million across 5 years. The deadline to submit proposals is July 21, and we anticipate starting research this fall. Thank you so much, and so proud to be working on this effort with you guys.
Thank you, guys. I want to thank the president for making this possible and thank these two guys for their hard work to actually implement this. This is a very big day, not just for the people of East Palestine, but for anybody who wants to understand the connection between the chemicals that we use every day and the effects that it has on people's health. No one has tried to do this in this particular way. I think it's going to benefit millions of Americans. We're going to know more than we knew because of the hard work of the guys standing next to me.
That was a grainy video, and that's right from J.D. Vance, Vice President. It's hard to tell if he had the eyeliner there. But you saw there, shout out to Peter Duke, and he's telling us, hey, looks like they're running some type of ritual here. And then Denver's also pointing out that, hey, if you don't study, then there is no risk. So, some more shadiness. It's definitely shady what's going on there. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Don't forget about East Palestine, Ohio, with all the shadiness that went around with it. Okay. On to Dr. Oz, TV doctor, head of CMS now. Let's watch this as he's fighting fraud, he tells us. Never mind the whole systems of fraud, but Dr. Oz is going to save us here now.
Dr. Oz here. I've been entrusted by the president with the critical task of protecting Medicare, which provides health care for seniors and those with disabilities, many of whom are some of our most vulnerable Americans. Unfortunately, there are fraudsters out there stealing money from this vital program. So one of the first things I did as CMS administrator was to launch the Fraud Defense Operations Center, which is a war room dedicated to crushing healthcare fraud. This war room, it's a big one, brings together the best and the brightest in government to take swift action with potential fraud is identified, sometimes within hours instead of days or weeks. Now, crushing fraud, waste, and abuse is a top priority for the Trump administration. And so far, this initiative has allowed us to stop over $100 million in payments going out the door to potentially bad actors trying to defraud our programs. This is great news, my friends, but it's only the beginning. So fraudsters, be warned. We are coming for you. I'm excited to share with you today that we're making the Fraud Defense Operations Center a permanent part of the critical fight to crush healthcare fraud. This fraud war room is going to safeguard your taxpayer dollars and, most importantly, protect the Americans that we serve.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dr. Oz. What about the entire fraud that is the Rockefeller medicine system? Oh, well, let's not talk about that right now. Snarky says that they're gonna use that study to seize the land. They may very well. They may very well. That seems to be the trend here now. Sad news about the Shahara versus Ascension Health verdict. It came out today. Of course, that's the story we've been reporting about this Down syndrome girl. I think she was 19 years old. That was put on the BAT protocols over there at the hospital, and she didn't make it out against the family's wishes to be not resuscitated. She was not resuscitated, and so the verdict was a no. It was a jury trial, and Ascension Health has come out the winner. The verdict's no breaches, no malpractice for the nurses or doctor, no breaches of any standards of care, no breach of the do not resuscitate placed, and no breach on reversing the do not resuscitate. So a big win for Ascension Health there. And doesn't look like we're going to get any justice. You see cases here and there where people were wrongfully fired for not taking their miracles, right? But yeah, that was a big one, a big win for Rockefeller medicine system for sure. Sad news to report on that front to you. Okay, on to, you say, well, all eyes are over there on Iran and Aardvark land, rightfully so. They're lobbing rockets and missiles and bombing the hell out of each other right now. And it's not pretty, but there's still a war going on over there in Russia and Ukraine. And so now, but this whole thing is a more conflicting, right? Back and forth for a minute. Like a month ago, it looked like we were going to have a peace deal, but then they launched Operation Spiderweb, right? Ukraine did, bombed the hell out of Russia's strategic bombers. And you had Zelensky talking out both sides of his mouth. I want a peace deal. I don't want a peace deal. He hasn't been elected for a year, right? Over a year. They've had no elections. He's passed his term. He's looking like a dictator in the greatest democracy in the world, Ukraine. And so now Zelensky says he's ready to meet with Putin, even though he's overstayed his limit. Putin's gonna meet with him, maybe, possibly, maybe not. Let's hear from this short clip from Zelensky. They both lie out of both sides of their mouth.
Потрібне реальне закінчення війни. Україна готова зустрічатись на найвищому рівні, і цей рівень саме рішень. Я готовий зустрічатись в будь-якому форматі з тими, хто приймає рішення і хто має відповідні повноваження. В тому числі і з Путіним, хоч він і пересидів конституційні повноваження щонайменше на 3 терміни. І бажано закінчити війну в цьому терміні президента Трампа. Я дуже розраховую на його допомогу. дуже розраховую на вплив Сполучених Штатів. Це те, що може допомогти. Санкції потрібні, дипломатія потрібна, безпека потрібна. Слава
So they all overstayed their terms. They're all tyrants. But Putin's the most evil man in the world, YouTube. Don't forget that. So are they all meeting in the back room literally laughing as they feed the poor into the meat grinder? That's what it sure looks like to me, honestly. And then what's China have to say about all this? Well, President Xi spoke with Russian President Putin on the phone and exchanged views on the situation in the Middle East. So they're talking about it. Here's the statement from Chinese embassy, official statement. They go on to say Xi made 4 proposals regarding the current situation in the Middle East today. Promoting a ceasefire and ending the hostilities is an urgent priority. Ensuring the safety of civilians is a paramount importance. Opening dialogue and negotiation is the fundamental way forward. Efforts by the international community to promote peace are indispensable. And China, like literally every country's ordered their citizens there. I was looking at a big old list. Everybody that has foreign nationals in Iran is being ordered to evacuate. And also being reported out of China that the state counselor and minister of public security, Wang Zhihong, met with U.S. Ambassador to China, David Perdue, in Beijing. Wang said China is willing to work with the U.S. to implement the important consensus reached between their 2 heads of state and strengthened practical cooperation in law enforcement fields such as drug control and the repatriation of illegal immigrants based on the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. That same language, China, if nothing else, stays on message. Win-win cooperation to achieve results conducive to the well-being of the people in both countries. It is hoped that the U.S. will work together with China, uphold an attitude of equality, respect each other's concerns, and inject positive energy into the development of bilateral relations. And these are the 2 diplomats right here. And then back to Aardvark news. And of course, our Lord and Savior, the greatest man in the world, shadow president, Bibi Netanyahu from Poland, right? So everybody had to say, what was this in regards to? I think we had a couple clips of him. Oh, he's reacting. This is Bibi, who it was reported that he had fled to Greece. It looks like he's back in Aardvark land. He is, this is a reaction to Iran's latest missile strikes. And there's reports that the Iron Dome missile defense system there is being diminished now, as something like 90% stopped yesterday or the last 2 days, and that's down to like 65%. And so who knows, are they playing possum? Are they allowing these strikes to cause outrage, to bring the United States in? Is their system legitimately failing? Who knows? But we should be asking all of these questions, as we do not want America involved in this any more than it already is, supplying weapons, funding, logistics, intelligence, so on and so on. Just about everything short of outright American flag on the side of the plane bombing Iran, which is the next step. That looks like we're waiting on the 2 weeks. It could be happening right now for all we know, for as much as they lie. Here's Bibi today.
יש אנשים לצערנו גם נהרגו, משפחות ששכלו יקירים. אני מאוד מעריך את זה. כל אחד מאיתנו נושא מחיר אישי, זה לא פסח על המשפחה שלי. כן, פעם שנייה שבני אבנר, בגלל איום טילים וירי טילים, מבטל חתונה, זה בוודאי מחיר אישי יקר לו, וגם לארוסתו ולמשפחתנו. וגם אני חייב להגיד, רעייתי היקרה היא גיבורה. היא נושאת מחיר אישי במשך שנים. כשאני מוביל את המהלך הזה נגד הגרעין האיראני, היא הקריבה את מיטב שנותיה, ונתנה לי את כל הכוח להיות פה, כי בלעדיה לא הייתי כאן, וכך גם שני בניי.
So yeah, again, he launched this war in the midst of losing power in their government over the conscription of the Orthodox, and also he's fighting his own corruption charges there in Aardvark land. And so all of that is brushed aside, obviously, when you're getting missiles launched at you. But all that is in the background. Here is ultra-Zionist fanatic constantly trying to kick off, incite the Muslims. He's always over there at the Al-Aqsa Mosque desecrating their holy site, as we continue to report here, trying to provoke the Muslims to just freaking overrun the place, right? Ben-Gvir. This guy, he makes me very upset. But let's hear what he had to say, where he's talking about, well, they're actually cracking down on free speech there. And anyone caught watching Al Jazeera, he's telling the aardvarks to report him to the police. So it's the only democracy in West Asia there, don't you know, as we're told.
יש גם הבוקר בתל אביב אירוע שהחרימו ציוד, עיכבו צלם. אנחנו לא ניתן לאל-ג'זירה לשדר מישראל, ואני קורא לכל מי שרואה את אל-ג'זירה, לכל האזרחים לעדכן את המשטרה. אני יודע שגם שירות הביטחון הכללי בנושא.
Sorry, we didn't have, I thought I had subtitles on that one. I might have another one that had subtitles, but he did have something in his throat, as you could tell. But yeah, many reports. An Al Jazeera photographer has been detained by Aardvark police, who accuse him of revealing the exact location of one of the missile strikes there. So, and of course, they're saying national security may be legitimate. Here's kind of a funny and sad video. As I always say, all sides are bad. I don't want to see anybody get killed in any of this. Stop killing each other. Aardvarks, Muslims, Christians, whatever the hell you are, you know, pagans, it don't matter. Stop killing each other. Here's CNN covering the aftermath. Maybe we should arrest this guy of Iranian missile strike there. Maybe we should arrest CNN. This is funny, but crazy too. They shut him down when a sign falls on one of the construction workers. Take a look at this video.
Area. The building that was struck has apartment buildings. It also has offices. And here you can see that there are shops. There's a barber shop right here that was damaged by the blast. A corner store, you know, where people might get their basic provisions. Oh my goodness. And as you can see, still quite a dangerous situation with debris still falling. That man was just struck actually by a falling, I hope he's okay. He was just struck by a falling signage on the side here. So, you know, that's why we're wearing this helmet, this safety equipment, because we are still seeing windows falling, pieces of metal collapsing.
Was Snarky say he's kind of look forward to World War Z scene playing out there? Well, so is Ben-Gvir and the rest of the ultra-Zionists, because they're constantly trying to provoke them at the Al-Aqsa Mosque right there. To freaking set them all off and just, you know, have a scene out of World War Z. Okay, let's take a listen to General Raisi out of Iran now. He says Tehran has land and sea power and can close the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, if that does happen, then we're going to see oil prices shoot through the roof. We do have English subtitles as he speaks in his language here.
اولا در زمینه خود موشکی ما امکانات جدیدی داریم که انشاءالله در روزهای آینده به کار گرفته خواهد شد. ثانیاً ما از توانایی‌های زمینیمون به هیچ وجه استفاده نکردیم، از توانایی دریاییمون اصلا استفاده نکردیم. ما از ابزار نفت استفاده نکردیم، از ابزار تنگی هرمز استفاده نکردیم. از دوستان ما در خیلی از کشورهای اطراف سرزمین‌های اشغالی تقاضا کردن اقدام کنن. ما گفتیم فعلا ما خودمون عمل میکنیم. ما کنترل کردیم دوستانمون رو. بنابراین چرا؟ چون ما داریم مدیریت میکنیم. اولا ما بارها اعلام کردیم که مردم عادی از اطراف مکانهای نظامی، مکانهای اطلاعاتی، مکانهای فرماندهی ارتش اسرائیل و دولت اسرائیل مردم فرار بکنن. ما واقعا نمیخوایم کسی از مردم عادی کشته بشه. یه مقدار از تأخیر این که آرام آرام داریم موج رو بالاتر میبریم مربوط به این است که مردم فرار کنن، مردم تخلیه کنن. خب تخلیه بکنید، فرار کنید. فردا اگر اتفاقی افتاد نگید که خب چرا ایرانی‌ها به ما موشک زدن. خب فرار کنید. شما رفتید کنار پادگان نظامی یه کلینیک درست کردید، یه بیمارستان درست کردید. ما از اونجا داره به ایران حمله میشه و ما باید اون مکان نظامی رو بزنیم، باید اون پادگان نظامی رو ما.
So that's the big point of contention today about how dare Iran attack the hospital. But they blew the hell out of all kind of hospitals there in Gaza. They're terrorists though. Hamas is hiding underneath them. Here's old Bibi talking about after Iran, Pakistan is next. They already do have nukes. So he's getting very bold, but telling us the plan.
Mission that we have is to prevent a militant Islamic regime from meeting up with nuclear weapons or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called Iran. The second is called Pakistan. Because if these radical regimes have nuclear weapons, they will not obey the rules that have been obeyed in the last almost 7 decades.
There you go. We're stuck between these radical religious fundamentalists on both sides, honestly. Yeah, and Karen made a good point. Friggin' Iran put their country right around all of our military bases here. And so that's bad right there. They need to move this country out of there and just let us have control of this region, right? As Peter Duke showed us, CENTCOM map literally is this, right? CENTCOM map. And by the way, CENTCOM is very quiet. Still, CENTCOM very quiet. They're usually bragging about bombing Yemen, bombing Somalia, but very quiet. They haven't posted in like, what, 10, 11 days, something like this. So they're war planning there and figuring out how to move Iran off the map. Here's Matt Gaetz on the OAN. He says if anyone is concerned with secret nuclear programs in the Middle East, they should start with Aardvark land, surprisingly enough. And then I saw your usual suspect, neocon warmonger, piece of garbage out there, who Mark Levin, all your Fox News usual suspects, warmongers, right? I guess another talking point I've been noticed is if you speak out against this and say it's wrong and we want peace and stop killing people, you're some kind of kook. They love using that one. You're a moron, you're a kook. They don't ever address the issue of that peace could be good and stop and killing people's bad on all sides. Again. All sides are bad when they're killing people.
But Matt, Iran has kicked out IAEA inspectors. There could be portions of their nuclear program that are secret. A nuclear secret in the Middle East. How about it? If the world is interested in a secret nuclear program in the Middle East, there is a country that won't allow any international inspectors. Israel. Israel has a nuclear weapon. Did you know that? I do. They allow no inspections. They are fully secretive and clandestine about it, and the Americans are fully aware. You know what? I don't even blame Israel for this. If they want to develop a nuclear weapon, if they had the blessing to do so secretly, I'm not in judgment of that. But to drag the world into a regime change war over secret nuclear weapons, when you have secret nuclear weapons, is a bit hypocritical. So here's the deal. How about Iran and Israel both give up their secret nuclear weapon programs? If Trump got that deal, he wouldn't only get the Nobel Peace Prize, they'd probably name it the Trump Peace Prize forevermore. And it's not that crazy to think about Israel denuclearizing. Look at the model in South Africa. South Africa denuclearized right before they stopped being an apartheid state. Prominent voices in Israel and America have called for Trump to recognize Israel's sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, which some people call the West Bank. If that happens, Israel will have to let the 5 to 6 million people who live there vote. And they don't want to do that. I'm not calling Israel an apartheid state. Right now, I don't think they are. But if they are ruling the West Bank, as the neocons would suggest, then the South Africa model for denuclearization is not totally off base. There's a certain bravado at the beginning of a Middle East regime change war. There's enthusiasm, bold predictions of swift victory, and usually a total misunderstanding of what happens next. Oh, Iraq wasn't prepared. Daisy cutter? This is how easily the so-called foreign policy experts believed we would carve our way through Iraq. I saw how many of our bravest patriots were pushing up daisies as a consequence of that war.
Are these just cartoon characters? It certainly is appearing that way. Okay, let me take the live commercial break here as we went past the hour mark. Everybody go to weaponizednews.com. Get yourself some stickers there for Pride Month, Juneteenth. Of course, we have the hologram and the all the colors of the rainbow there. Weaponized News sticker. Get it. Represent Weaponized News. We have, for everybody not celebrating Pride Month every day of the year, you can get your white background sticker there. I know it's hateful to have white backgrounds on Juneteenth, but we're going to stick with it. And then clear. We have a clear background here as well. Put it on your laptop, your bumper, your guitar, your work locker. Those are some places that people have reported representing Weaponized News with the sticker there. Go to weaponizednews.com, get yourself a sticker. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor and be right back. How much more do we have left? And we still got quite a bit of reporting about what is all transpiring there in West Asia. Here is Abba Zaba Enterprises, and we'll be back with the second half of the show.
Running a small business feeling overwhelmed by numbers and paperwork? Abba Zaba Enterprises has your back. Our expert business solutions include accounting, QuickBooks support, payroll, taxes, and top-notch consulting. Let us handle the details so you can focus on growing your business. Business Solutions Accounting, QuickBooks, Consulting, Payroll, Taxes. Call 559-577-9250. Call Abba Zaba Enterprises today at 559-577-9250 for stress-free solutions.
And welcome back to the second part of the show on this Juneteenth federal holiday, Thursday edition of Weaponized News. Thank you for joining us. Oh, man. Yeah, we got a lot more reporting about the hypocrisy. Allegedly, this is a video that the IDF has released about its bombing campaign against Iranian sites. And they're filling up that whole map. Maybe they should move their country. Let's take a look at this video. There's no audio on this. sadly, they've hit quite a few sites there in Iran, allegedly, according to the IDF. Norway ambassador residence in Tel Aviv. There was an explosion near there. Reportedly, no one was injured. That's a report out of Reuters. Maybe Norway should evacuate. Iranian missiles hit the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. That's quite concerning. Let's take a look at this video of it. Very concerning indeed. They're hitting them, man. And then this guy, Ben-Gvir. Ben-Gvir says people who attack hospitals are Nazis. But how many hospitals did they blow up in Gaza? I don't know, 10, 12, 15, something like this. It's hard to even keep track. As the siege blocking food, clean water, medicine, energy into Gaza continues, keep that in mind in context of Ben-Gvir's comments here.
When we went out to this war, we knew we were dealing with Nazis. But now the whole world sees that these Nazis are launching at a hospital to harm people, the elderly, the sick, and the helpless.
But isn't that the same thing they just got done doing? Hypocrisy here is like next level. Here's that same video of that we showed earlier. Sorry, apologies, with the subtitles about the greatest democracy, or the only democracy they tell us, and our greatest ally in West Asia. Turns out they're full-on authoritarian now, arresting the press from reporting on what's going on the ground there. Democracy.
יש גם הבוקר בתל אביב אירוע שהחרימו ציוד, עיכבו צלם. אנחנו לא ניתן לאל-ג'זירה לשדר מישראל, ואני קורא לכל מי שרואה את אל-ג'זירה, לכל האזרחים לעדכן את המשטרה. אני יודע שגם שירות הביטחון הכללי בנושא, ויש אמירה מפורשת, מדיניות מפורשת, אל-ג'זירה מסכנת את ביטחון.
So there you go. They confiscated the camera equipment from the Al Jazeera cameraman and arrested him, and he's urging aardvarks to report anyone watching Al Jazeera. Sounds like democracy to me. Here is, they're even arresting aardvarks. Aardvarks arrest, they arrested this guy for posting on TikTok. He supported Iran and Khamenei on TikTok. The detectives of the Jerusalem district came to him and arrested him. National Security Minister Ben-Gvir boasted on X. Life in the Middle East, or life in the Middle East only democracy. Here's a video of said TikToker being taken away. And they'll do the same thing here in America. If we do get in a real war, they'll do the same exact thing, just like they did in World War II, man. They'll start putting people in internment camps. Okay, so you're like, well, here's the numbers so far. According to antiwar.com, they say aardvark attacks on Iran have killed 639 people, hundreds of civilians amongst those killed so far. And here is, we're going to get to this whole controversy over the Nazi Iranians striking the hospital. Here is here's a report out of, well, he's on Al Jazeera. He may need to be arrested. Aardvark academic Ori Gilsberg. It's important to mention that there really are various sensitive installations and headquarters very near to the hospital, because Aardvark land places its military headquarters in the midst of civilian neighborhoods and towns, almost like they're using civilians as human shields. Well, who was accused of that this entire time? As IDF was driving around with Palestinian prisoners of war strapped to their hood like a friggin' deer. They're all Hamas. This guy needs to be arrested for being on Al Jazeera, according to Ben-Gvir.
As your correspondent mentioned, the authorities are focusing on the hospital. That sends a message that the Iranians target hospitals. Of course, Israelis target hospitals as well. It's important to mention that there really are various sensitive installations and headquarters very near to the hospital, because Israel places its military headquarters in the midst of civilian neighborhoods and towns.
What? We were told that Hamas is the one hiding underneath the rubble of hospitals. What? Projection much there? They're all bad, man. They're all bad. They're all bad. And a bunch of civilians, innocent people, are caught up in it and getting killed. It's horrific. Heavy damage, injuries as Iran's missiles strike Bir Shaba Hospital. Dozens hurt in Central City. Here's Aardvark Times, and they have video just playing on loop. Let's take a quick look at that. And so, of course, don't hit a hospital, but it's being reported now. Take a look at this map so you can get an idea about what we're talking about here. So here's the hospital, medical center, and it's in between the two targets here, the IDF C4I headquarters and the this other IDF intelligence campus. And so there you have it. And again, it's being speculated that it was not a direct hit on the medical center. It was actually the shock waves from hitting both of these targets that caused that damage. Again, we're getting conflicting reports. It's hard to know unless you're on the ground. How do you really know? Both sides lie. It's a war. They're telling us propaganda and lies, right? How much do we got left here? Oh, we still got a little bit left. So Aardvark's cry about the hospital getting hit. Well, they're still genociding the Palestinians. Here is can we even show this? And we have video too. I don't even know if we could show it as graphic. I don't want to show it, as we don't show the war porn of the blowing off arms, legs, and heads of civilians, of children there. It's quite horrific. You can go find the videos all over your interwebs. But here is here they are bombing innocent civilians in tents as the genocide against the Palestinians continues. There's a shadow of someone in a tent literally burned to death. But hell, Hamas was hiding underneath that box, apparently. It's quite horrific. Here's Defense Minister Katz. Khamenei cannot continue to exist, he says. And is there I don't know if there's subtitles on this. This is actually CNN. I think maybe they put English subtitles. Let's take a look.
I want to say that a dictator like Khamenei, who leads a country like Iran and has engraved on his flag the annihilation of the state of Israel, this terrible goal of destroying Israel, cannot continue to exist.
So Khamenei can no longer be permitted to exist. Nobody's buying the whole you hit our hospital, Iran, how dare you? Like that's what they've been doing forever against the Palestinians. So the outrage rings hollow, even though once again it's bad for all sides to be hitting hospitals, any civilian targets, or even military targets. Stop killing each other, stop shooting at each other. But we're already past that now, aren't we? Here is Bibi responding to Katz saying to that last clip, Khamenei cannot continue to exist. What did our shadow president here, Bibi, have to say about that?
אני הנחיתי שלאף אחד לא תהיה חסינות באיראן. מעבר לזה אני לא חושב שראוי להוסיף או נחוץ להוסיף. אני חושב שצריך לתת למעשים לדבר הרבה יותר מהמילים.
No one in Iran will have immunity. They've been waiting for this moment for a very, very long time. And look at the map too there in the background. They have the CENTCOM map there. See that on the wall right there, right? That's it right there. They've been waiting for this for a very, very long time. So everyone, even Aardvark ministers, with his loud declaration about Khamenei's fate, must understand that attacks on nuclear facilities are extremely dangerous and can lead to a repeat of the Chernobyl tragedy. Dmitry Medvedev said here. So if our bunker buster 30,000-pound bomb won't take out their full facility, will America use a fake nuke on them? If Aardvarks or U.S. kill Khamenei, then he'd become a martyr and it'd become a religious war. Isn't it already a religious war? Let's hear Congressman Bitchute on CNN about this. I'm pretty sure it's already a religious war with religious radicals on both sides.
So speaking of the Israelis, sir, Israel's defense minister earlier today said that Iran's supreme leader cannot, quote, continue to exist. Do you think the United States should support the Israelis taking out the supreme leader, so to speak, or should we discourage the Israelis from doing that?
Well, of course, it's the Israelis' position, but what I'm afraid will happen, he's an older man. He is the religious leader. When they threw out the Shah, they brought in the Ayatollahs, and he is one of those that is ascended into power, I guess you could say. And I'm afraid if you take him out, he would just be a martyr, and it would turn into more of a religious war. I think that you're seeing on the ground, and from reports I've gotten, that there are Iranians that would like regime change. We just don't have a good record with a regime change. We put somebody in, and it doesn't seem to always work out for us. I would use a lot of caution in that area, and maybe through diplomacy, he can just get the hell out of there. And
Well, just do a regime change, put it in another U.S. puppet, and then another 5, 10, 15, 20 years when we feel like we need another war, just overthrow him and say how he was building a nuke or whatever BS excuse. That is the continuing trend that we've seen here now. And so I know everybody was sad. They're like, what about the genocide in Gaza? They're going to stop killing people. Don't you worry about it. In the last 24 hours, aardvarks have killed 84 Palestinians in Gaza, including aid workers. It is quite horrific indeed. So that is continuing, along with the Iran strikes. It's horrific. And there is this graphic video. I'm not going to show it to you because we'll probably get censored and say we're promoting war or whatever. But it has dead kids. It is horrific. Graphic aftermath of aardvark strikes in Gaza, Shati refugee camp, filmed by Al Jazeera reporter. It's quite horrific indeed. There's dead kids, bodies laying everywhere. And so, yeah, they're continuing to genocide those Palestinians that were building the nuclear bomb. Well, wait a minute. They were living in a plastic tent and trying to get a drink of clean water and a piece of bread. Well, what the hell? They were identified by Palantir Lavender system, right, as being 6 degrees separated from somebody who once talked to Hamas. And so that's good enough, right? That's what they're going with here. The whole thing's a giant disaster. We don't need to get involved, but Trump's given it 2 weeks. For all we know, the bombers are flying right now. You know what I mean? More of this 2-week BS. And so we found out the 2 weeks propaganda, trust Trump, the plan propaganda, and we can't allow Iran to have a nuke, right? And so when you see those talking points out there from your Mockingbird media, your interweb influencers, anybody you know in your personal life, say, hey, you're mocking, you're parroting propaganda talking points from the U.S. military. And it's just complete and utter nonsense. And demand that we get better propaganda and better psyops, because this stuff is played out to the max, 25 years plus into the war on terror. And we deserve better brainwashing than what they're giving us for those noticing and paying attention out here for as much taxes as we pay. For crying out loud, we're watching a bad rerun repeat. Give us something better. They may. They say there's Iranian terror cells all over America. Iran has attempted to assassinate President Trump. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to pull next here now? There's fake polls out there. I don't know, what is it? 85% of America supports Iran not having a nuke. Who knows what they would pull? A real assassination on President Trump, a fake one, a false flag terror attack, a real terror attack. Who knows what's coming? Something's coming. Something's coming here in America to get, as they always do, to get the American people behind the war effort. And so feels to me like something's coming. And whether real, fake, it don't matter. They need something. They need something to get the American people behind the war effort against Iran. And so it feels like something's coming, and none of it's good. So on this June 19th, be nice to your black neighbors, to your minority neighbors, to your aardvark neighbors. Be nice to them. Be nice to all public officials. Be nice to them, even though they're on a federal holiday today. Everybody else had to go to work, I guess, except for the banks and the federal government. Anyway, be nice to them because they're looking for any excuse to play the victim and to say that, see, we had to do it because they were mean to us. So be nice out there to all of these groups on this Juneteenth. And tomorrow we're going to go ahead and celebrate summer solstice. And it does look like some type of giant blood ritual, which war is essentially. Giant blood ritual sacrifice going on there now. So maybe they'll do it tomorrow and kick the whole thing off. But it feels like they want something to happen here directly in America, like I said, to get the people allegedly behind direct attacks on Iran. So the situation is fluid, as they say, as we await the 2 weeks to flatten the curve announced today by the White House, which could be any time right now, as a matter of fact. So let's pray for peace there, and of course in Russia-Ukraine war and all around the place. We don't even talk much about, I reported on a little bit, but there's like wars going on in Sudan. There's giant war going on there, some civil war type of thing, and these little skirmishes breaking out. But what is going to happen? Do they really want to attack Pakistan next? I mean, that's just crazy. But who knows? They're crazy religious fanatics that believe they're fulfilling this, third temple prophecy to bring about the Antichrist and the second coming and all of this, as we continue to report here. Religious fanatical maniacs on all sides. And we're stuck in the middle saying, stop killing each other, man. With that, let me go to the channels here. Again, thank you to everybody for joining us, as this is sucking up much of the news, much of the air in the room here. The Aardvark Iran bombings of each other. Let me go to the channels quickly and check out who's on there. Oh, by the way, we didn't even pull this up. This is the thumbnail of the show. We have a Juneteenth flag. Who knew? You know what I mean? Who knew? But here it is. Here's the Juneteenth flag. I should probably look up what it even means. I didn't even have time in all my other news gathering of the day, but here's the Juneteenth flag. How many points are on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is that 13? Or is that 12? Let's count again. Starting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, 12 actually. So a 12-pointed, weird-looking, funky star inside a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A 5-pointed star inside a 12-pointed star. What is that? 5 and 12, 17. I'm sure it has some type of weird occult symbology meaning out there. And then you have like the horizon, right, going on right here. So anyway, I'm sure there's some kind of weird symbology going on there with the Juneteenth flag. Here is, let's go to Odysee. Shout out to researcher investigator of Orion's Belt. Thank you for joining us. John, thank you for joining us. We have a little chat going on there. Thank you guys for keeping that chat lively. Again, we're missing Barry. We don't still no word from Barry. Hopefully he's okay out there on the interwebs, wherever he may be. I've tried to contact him multiple times, and no reply back from him. So anyway, shout out to Barry, if you can hear us. What do they say? John says, Patrick Woods, Technocracy News, has a seminar on omnivore, specifically concerned with the brain, the newest target of DARPA. You may enjoy the presentation. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. Thank you, John, for reminding me of that. Oh, John, John says, I own a copy of the protocols. There are printed books that people want to eliminate, and I will bet this is one of them. I think Peter Duke does a great job of breaking all that down. I think he covered. Well, he talked about it. Did he talk about it on our show? I know he talks about it, whether it's a hoax, real or not, and all of this type of talk out there. You guys got a good chat going back there. Third Temple prophecy has nada to do with a physical build. Has nada to do with a physical build, really? That's what a researcher says. Well, Ben-Gvir is at the Al-Aqsa Mosque like every other week trying to incite some type of World War Z scenario, desecrating their holy site. So there's that going on. Thank you guys for chatting it up on the Odysee and tuning in on the Odysee. Let's go to the Bitchute channel now and see what kind of chat is over there. Not much on the Bitchute. Well, shout out to the Bitchute audience for those tuning in. Of course, a lively chat on the Rumble. Thank you guys for keeping it lively on the Rumble. Much appreciated. Much banter. For anybody interested in the chat, the Rumble is where the action is. They're keeping it very lively over there with our regular listeners. Thank you for tuning in and keeping me motivated here at Weaponized News. Appreciate it, everybody on the Rumble. The Facebook. Is there any viewers? A few on the Facebook. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook. X, of course. Thank you for tuning in on X. Kick, Twitch, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. And I think that's about all we got for today. Again, I'm going to figure out how to live stream and see how that works. Peter Duke told me about it, and I think I knew from watching his show that you can live stream on Substack, but I upload it after and put the links to everything we talk about so you have a point of reference if you want to go do your further research. So Weaponized News Substack, you can find that. The re-upload of the show and all the links to everything we talk about here. But I may try to live stream there and see how that sorts out. But I like when you upload a video to Substack, it AI generates like 4 different cuts. They used to do, I remember when it first started, they were doing like 16, and I guess they figured that got a little bit crazy, and then they pared it down to 8, and now it's pared down to 4 different cuts. Sometimes it's good cuts, sometimes it's just like not good cuts. So it's like kind of random, but I'm interested to see if they give you the AI cuts if you live stream there. So I'll have to figure that out. But I will probably cut off one of these where we don't have much audience, like Twitch or something like this, because that's for like video game streaming. And so people don't care about the news and the information that we get into here on Weaponized News. So may have to cut off one of those, probably Twitch, I would say, and take that channel over to the old Substack and live stream there. Anyway, as always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom to you. And have a great rest of your Thursday evening. Let's pray for peace. Seriously, let's pray for peace, that we don't have some giant outbreak of, and the U.S. doesn't get involved over there, which it looks all indicators are that we are going to get directly involved there in West Asia, which it would be a horrific mistake by Trump. And where the hell's Congress? I guess there's reports of Democrats acting like they care. They don't care. Where's Congress? Where's somebody saying, hey, you're just unilaterally going to go bomb a country? Well, that seems to be the trend in here in America. Let's pray for peace there and in all these other conflicts. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for Friday edition, summer solstice of Weaponized.